Hi, today we're going to talk about how to make interactive charts using the Google Visualization API. We're going to look at some tornado fatality data first. Where we find the data is over here at NOAA's National Weather Service, where they list, very simply, the latest U.S. tornado statistics. I found this through some simple Googling and also just knowledge of what federal agencies were. And so what we're going to focus on is the number of tornado-related deaths, and you can see it breaks it down, 2011, 2010, 2009, 2008. We're just going to focus on April and May because this year that's been sort of newsworthy in terms of this type of activity, and also compare for all months in a year over time. So what I did was I copied out this table and then deleted the lines that were no longer necessary, and you end up with an Excel spreadsheet that looks very much like this when you add the labels on the left, and then it breaks it down. You could do a much more complicated data set with a Google chart, but to keep it fairly simple, this is what we're going to go with first. So you either can copy it out yourself by using the URL here, or you can just go to the Poynter article, which this is embedded in, called How to Make Simple Web-Based Google Charts, and I say you can download a clean version of the data here, formatted as a comma delimited file. Now that we've gone ahead and gotten the data, our next step is to go into the Google Chart API. So this is a list of interactive charts they have available that you can make. You can also make your own and get a bit more complex, but for our purposes, we're going to make an interactive bar chart. You can see it by scrolling down from the bottom of this page. You can get here by Googling Google Visualization API, or again, there's also a link to it back in the Poynter article over here. Nope, not there, sorry. Go back to the charts gallery and we can go ahead and click on bar chart. You can even see a little sample of how it works here. As you mouse over the different bars, it'll show you the label that's on the left, like what year it was, and just give you more information about the exact number, so you're not having to guess, oh, I guess looks like it's about at 400. No, it's exactly at 400. It looks like it's a little more than 1,000. No, it's exactly 1,170. So when you click on bar chart, it's going to go ahead and give you some information about it. This is actual documentation for code, but it's not really that difficult, and you don't need to go too deep into it if you don't want to. But if you want to, you can go ahead and do that. And I'll show you an example like what you just saw, but in a slightly bigger version that's easier to see. And then it'll give you the code to make that exact piece work. It'll also tell you what you need to do to load a chart on the page and different options you can configure in the code for the chart itself, which we will go through. This is coding in JavaScript, but again, it's at a fairly simple level. But what's nice about Google Visualization API is as complicated as you want to get, it will let you do that. One of the great features of the Google Visualization API is that they have this playground. And so right between where you see the example chart and the code for the example chart, you can go ahead and click on that. And what it'll do is it'll bring up a sample bar chart or any of the other charts you see. There's tons of different ones you can click through. And it will show you the actual code that makes it go. So it's as simple as just they have their sample as yearly coffee consumption by country. And so if I were to switch that out, again, this will make it not accurate, but if I say that this is the United States and then I run it, you'll see that now the legend has changed accordingly. That if you wanted to change year, you would change this add column line in line 11, but since it's still a year, we're going to keep it the same. And then down here on lines 32 and 33, again, we'll keep 32 the same, but instead of cups, we're going to change it to fatalities. One other change we're going to make in this step is go back up to where it labels the different types of data. We're not going to be going by what we just changed to United States or Bulgaria. There's going to be an April line, a May line, and an all months, but whole year is probably better. A whole year line. We're then going to delete this Greece line down here, but not that final bracket and semicolon because that tells it it's the end. And then we also have to take out this comma because you don't want a comma before your last series that's in there. So the comma goes out. And so that should still run. So now you see that's changed to April, May, and whole year, but the numbers are still the same. Instead of all the years listed, we're going to have to change this data. And then this is now fatalities instead. Just a quick note about that run code button I've been pressing. That's what tells the graph to reload with the adjustments you've made to the code so you can make sure it's still working. If it's not working, you can press the debug code button, which should give you more information about any problems you might be having if they exist. Once you press the debug code button, it'll bring up a little console and it will tell you about errors in here, but if it says complete, then there's no problem, which you also know because you can see the graph displayed. So once that's done, your next step is we only have 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011. So we're going to change on line 9 this list of the years we have available to that. So 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. Now you'll see there are 2 extra years here that there are not in our data. So when we delete these, which we will, and also the last comma, as I explained before, when you try to run it, you're going to see it's not going to adjust. And it's going to fail. And you'll have that white box. That's because you still have 6 numbers here, like there's April, and then there's 6 numbers, but there's only 4 years for those 6 numbers to correspond to, so it goes, that doesn't work. The solution here is going to be to go ahead and take our data and put it in. Since we have so few numbers, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and copy these in easily. I could even go ahead and type 0, 6, 11, 361, but to make this a little bit easier, I'll just go and highlight all the April numbers and replace them. I'm going to have to add the commas manually. What you'd want to be doing, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it for the others as I talk, but what you'd ideally want to be doing if you had more data is to go in and format them exactly as you see this formatting here. So adding a comma between every column, putting a bracket before the very beginning, making sure there's no comma at the end, and then bracket and comma after the last column. You could do that with a text editor and some simple find and replace. You could also do that with programming if you know how to do that. And then the last all years is going to be right down here. Get out some of those extra spaces. And so that should work. So now if I press the run code button again, it should reappear with accurate values. So now you'll see that we're almost done. The one part that still looks a little strange is there's this title on the top. And so this is where some of your options come in. Instead of title, we'll say tornado-related fatalities 2008 to 2011. And again, we could refresh that already, and it'll be right there. One other change I'd like to make here is I'd like to make that title a little bigger. So I'm going to say title text style, which I've put in here. I could adjust a few things in here, but I'm just going to stick to font size and say I'd like it to be 16. I'll close that and add a comma. And so now you see it's bigger. And you can still mouse over, and you see you get the information that in 2011 for the whole year there were 504 tornado-related fatalities, 141 in May, back in 2008 in May there were 44, etc. And now we have an interactive graph. If you want to embed it on a page, you can just go to Edit HTML, and then it brings you a fully compiled HTML page that you can just go ahead and copy and paste and put into your CMS or host on a server or whatever you'd like. If you're doing it in the middle of your CMS and you're not making a full page, you're just going to want to focus on the part from this first script on line 13. Down to 57, and then also include lines 59 and 60, but you don't need those extraneous tags which define an actual page with the head and the body. And of course, for other options you can play with, and the best way to learn more about that is go to View Docs, which will bring you back to that page we were looking at originally, but maybe that'll make a little bit more sense now, hopefully, how you could change where an axis title position is, the colors that are used for the various charts if you don't happen to like what we already have, and this all goes in that bottom part. Click on Edit HTML again to go back to a JavaScript, but all those parameters or options go in this bottom part under Draw Data, just like we have title and width and v-axis on lines 30 through 33. Hope that helps a little bit. It's definitely a fun tool to explore, and we have now, in hopefully less than 10 minutes, made a quick visualization that is interactive using the Google Visualization API. Thanks for watching.